Hey, this is Duncan Evans, and you are listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
Well, thank you for joining me. I know we've been trying to do this for a while. You been all right?
Yeah, no worries at all. Yeah, all good. It's nice and sunny here in Leeds, UK. It's the weather's not always great, but at the moment it is really nice. So I'm enjoying it while it's here.
Yeah, same thing here. I think spring is finally around the corner, and it feels like with all this, everybody getting vaccines or whatever, it feels like it's starting to really open up again. I don't know what it's like there, but here bands are booking tours. It feels like it, we're coming out of a cocoon, maybe. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it's starting to feel that way. I think we've not got so many shows being booked, but they're starting to be booked really for some late summer, more like autumn or fall, as you would say. But, we're hopeful. I think it all just depends how the vaccine goes. I think what's good is that the case numbers don't really seem to be going up. They still seem to be going down.
Yep.
So we just got to cross our fingers, because I can't wait to get back to shows and tours and festivals, but both playing them and just going to see bands and socializing and reviewing them and all that, because I really miss it,
Yeah, another summer without shows will be unbearable to me.
I know, and it's just so devastating for the industry as well, especially for small venues and those medium-sized artists that may be on the kind of, the metal and like DIY sort of alternative scene that we all know about. There's so many bands that really rely on touring for their income, and that if that can't happen, they're just, they don't sell enough records to make a living off that, So, cross our fingers.
Hell yeah. So for those not familiar with Duncan Evans, can you give us the 2-sentence boardroom pitch?
Wow. Okay. So basically I play dark folk, post-punk. I've got a couple of albums out on Prophecy Productions. I've got a split album coming out soon on Trepanation Recordings. I'm an ex-member of Forest of Stars, and I'm also part of 2 other projects called Waxworm and Moonlow.
Beautiful. So you keep fairly busy
maybe
then.
3 sentences.
That's okay. But you keep fairly busy then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love music, and I just like to get involved in all sorts of different ways. I do some music journalism as well. I do some bits of writing, and I've done a couple of reviews for yourself, actually.
Yeah.
But I get involved as much as I can, and I like to change it up a bit. So I suppose one thing about me is that the different projects that I'm involved with, or that I have been involved with, are not really all the same style. Forest of Stars was sort of avant-garde black metal. Moonlow's kind of what I call apocalyptic noise poetry, which is really noisy, synthy, dark ambient kind of stuff. And then Waxworm is like a bit industrial, kind of like a bit dance music-ish, but kind of weird and kind of influenced by metal as well. So, and then my own stuff is more like singer-songwriter music, but the darker end of that kind of folky style, with a bit of post-punk, a bit of heavy stuff thrown in there. So I just like to keep it interesting,
With that in mind, so your stuff tends to more on the darker side of things. Do you find it's been a lot easier to write in these, I guess, darker times that we've been through for the last year and a half?
I mean, there's definitely something in that. I think with Moonlow, especially, because Moonlow was not a thing until about pretty much just a bit more than a year ago, at the very start of the pandemic. Before we'd properly locked down, I actually got ill. I think it probably was COVID. I don't know. They didn't really have testing back then. But basically, I had to self-isolate at first, and then while I was self-isolating, while I was pretty ill, it wasn't like, anything really worrying, but it was like bad flu. And while I was feeling that way, the world, of course, was changing like day by day. This crazy situation started to happen. And like the Moonlow albums, it's not written about that specifically, but those feelings of, oh my God, this is kind of an existential threat. Like, you know, we might, you know, the world seems like it's going to change. You know, I don't know if I'm, you know, who knows? I could end up in hospital with this illness. I might die. You know, I never got that bad, by the way. But, you know, those kind of feelings. So I channeled that into the music, and it just kind of gave me this strange, weird energy. And of course, I had the time as well to be able to do that. So, yeah, I would say there's definitely an energy that you can take from that sort of existential dread at times, which can be good creatively. Obviously, the pandemic's a horrible thing. Don't get me wrong, but you know, I think some good art can come from negative situations because of that desperation and those feelings. You know.
I think you're right. And I think you touched on it as well. I talk to a lot of bands on a weekly basis, and everyone's in the same boat, and they're all using, or not all, but a majority of them are using that downtime to really tune in and dial in their sound or dial in their songwriting. And I think when this is done, we're going to see some really killer records and some really killer music across all genres, because everybody's had nothing to do but like really hone their skill, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think it's it's given maybe certain artists a bit of time to take stock of what they're doing, what they want to do, and maybe especially bands that were doing a lot of shows. That difference and that downtimes maybe made them think, right, okay, let's really think about, you know, what do we want to do? Do we want to do, I don't know, a concept album, or do we, you know, what are these grand plans that we might have? And that can be a really good thing. I think conversely, you know, I think for some people, it's really kind of killed the creativity, because I think some people have got into this thing of being a bit kind of bogged down with it all, just feeling the weight of all this negativity. So it's not all good for creativity, but yeah, I do. What I hear is that there have been more records released because bands have been focusing on that instead of touring. And what I do like is that there's been some kind of special different records released, like, you know, Nick Cave did Idiot Prayer, which was like live on the piano, just piano and singing on his own at Alexandria Palace. And there's been some other cool kind of different releases. Another favorite of mine, Richard Thompson, did a lockdown acoustic record. So I like that. I know there's the band Lord over in Australia, who I interviewed Andy Dowling recently, and like they've taken stock and had a chance to do a covers album, like really cool covers album, which got to #1 in like the alternative Australian charts. So yeah, man, I think there is some truth in that you know, artists' output is going to be affected by this, and hopefully a silver lining of all this is that there's some really cool creative stuff going on.
What is your thoughts on how this is gonna, and I know nobody's got a crystal ball, so we can't really know, but when this opens up and everyone says go, there's going to be like a flood of musicians playing, right? And fans like myself are not going to be able to get, I mean, there's a potential for like multiple shows in multiple cities. How do promoters deal with that, and how are bands going to deal with that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be strange. And I think, because I had a bit of a worry that maybe people would have gotten so used to like watching Netflix and just being at home that maybe they wouldn't be that desperate to get back to shows, and maybe they'd also be worried still about the threat of COVID. But I know there's a festival where I live in Leeds, UK, called Damnation Festival, which I've actually played it twice. It's great. You know, they have some really big names on the, you know, what I suppose what you call the underground metal scene, extreme metal scene, and they normally, that's in November. It's an indoor festival in a university, and they normally sell out like either on the day of the festival or they don't quite sell out at all. This time, as soon as the announcements were made that things are hopefully going to be back to normal by then, they sold out in March, like about a month ago, just like that, within about a week. So yes, I think there's going to be a lot going on, and I think it is going to be tough. And I think for a while there might be some smaller bands that are going to suffer a bit, because obviously if everyone wants to play, then the promoters have kind of got their pick of who they you know, want to put on. There's going to be a lot of people desperate to get out there. But yeah, the other problem is that there's just going to be that split with the audience where, you know, if there's 10 shows on one night, then there's not necessarily going to be 10 shows worth of audience on one night in one city. I kind of think we just got to wait and see, and we've got to let it kind of iron itself out. And I'm partly hopeful that because there'll be such, because people have seen how small venues have been affected, and because there's so much underground support, you know, for DIY bands, I'm hoping that support is going to come out. You know, like I've seen that there's a local venue called Boom, which is a really cool venue for metal and punk and stuff like that, and it's not been able to open at all for over a year, but they've been supported. They've done crowdfunders, they've sold cool merch, they've done some special live stream shows from the venue, and, you know, with some quite big names as well, and they've basically managed to raise enough money that at the moment, fingers crossed, it looks like they're going to be okay. So I'm kind of hopeful that there's going to be that groundswell of support. And yeah, I suppose it's that thing of we've all got to get out and see smaller bands, local bands, touring bands, and not just like, you know, there's going to be those big shows and it's great to see them, but we've got to get out and support the DIY scene and the underground scene, and we've got to be part of that because we're all kind of in it together, you know.
And that's going to be the next, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's the next phase, right? Because the bigger bands are going to be eventually timing themselves out, I think. I mean, how relevant is, you know, big Motley Crue shows going to be? Shortly, they're going to not be. And you've got your not lower bands, but your, what's the word, underground bands that need to fill those spots. Right?
Yeah, no, totally, man. Absolutely. So I'm kind of hopeful because I think what's great about DIY music and the metal scene and the punk scene and the alternative music scene generally is that there is such kind of camaraderie and support, and there's, you know, we're all in it and we all kind of know each other, and there's this whole global network as well. And I suppose that leads me on to, like, I hope that international touring comes back, because that's going to be a weird one with whether people are allowed to travel. Right. And also in the UK with Brexit, and that's all finally kind of gone through, and it's all a bit of a mess. But again, the optimist in me is kind of hoping that once things do start to come back, and once we start to be in a position to say, right, there's a band here, they want to book a tour, they're from France and they want to play in the UK, I'm hoping that something maybe can be done where we can find a way of making that work, that works for everyone, because I think there is a lot of desire to get that happening. But yeah, we just got to take it day by day, and we've got to, I guess, all do our bit to support, you know, get out to those shows that you sometimes previously maybe couldn't be bothered to go to. Maybe just take that effort and just get out to that show midweek and go see some local bands, you know?
I think you hit it right on the head when you spoke about community, because I've been saying that for years now. There is such a community in the underground scene, the metal scene, even just the underground scene in general, maybe not just metal, that I don't think you find anywhere else. You don't find a pop culture scene or anything like that. And it is big, but it's small. I mean, does that make sense? Like, I know a lot of people from all over the world, and everybody is supportive of everybody. A good example is the drummer from Exodus, the big thrash band from San Francisco. He's got stage 4 cancer or something right now. And in 2 days, when they started a GoFundMe, they're well over 150 grand towards, you know, getting. So there's people that are out there in this community that are helpful. And it's so different from anything else I've ever seen.
Yeah, and no, I totally agree with that. And I think there's something about, because it's underground, because I think we often feel kind of like underdogs. We feel a bit unrepresented in the mainstream media. So it's that whole strange thing where someone like, I don't know, a band like Exodus, like, the fact is they can walk down the street and most people don't know who on earth they are. But then, you know, in like in their show, they can play to thousands of people, and are absolutely worshipped. But everyone kind of knows that there's that flip side where, you know, mainstream society is like, what? Thrash metal? What even is that? And what? We've never heard of these guys. They're not famous. They can't play to thousands of people. So I think because we kind of know that, we all really stick together. And when we do find other people that are into the stuff we're into, we latch onto that person. You know, you see the person across the room in a work meeting who's got an Iron Maiden shirt, and you go, right, I need to speak to that person.
Right.
You know, so, and it's great. It's really nice thing.
So let's get back to Duncan Evans. I've got a couple more and then we'll be out of time. But is there something you want your fans to walk away from after listening to one of your projects or seeing you live? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, I guess especially with the sort of the solo project, I guess it's about emotion, really. It's about feeling something. And it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, we're talking about, I guess, dark music in a way. And, you know, the music might touch on some darker themes and might be about difficult life experiences and things like that. But the idea is that there's kind of a bit of a catharsis there. There's a bit of maybe a way to kind of work through some of those issues that we all have in life. And I guess I want people to feel to feel that. I want them to feel something that isn't quite the same as what they feel when they're listening to a different type of music or another piece of art. And I guess I want them to feel slightly better about themselves and to feel some kind of connection, because that's what I like. The records that I really connect with are the ones that make that kind of, they say something to me and I'm like, yeah, that feels like something that I feel or that I'd like to have said, and I couldn't quite articulate it, but it seems to represent something that helps me or that I can connect with.
And you're not alone.
So yeah, totally, man. Again, we're almost like back to that community thing. So yeah, I guess I want someone to feel something. It's not necessarily about like, oh, tapping your foot and dancing. I mean, that's fine if people want to do that, but for me, it's really about feeling something that it might make you, I don't know, it might make you want to shed a tear, but there's also a kind of catharsis and a kind of joy that comes after that, perhaps, of like, we're all shedding this tear together type of thing. So yeah, I guess that's what I'd like people to, experience, really.
Okay. And so lastly, what do you have planned after this? I know you do a lot of live stream stuff. You got any more live stream things going on, or what's in the meantime before the club's open? What are you doing?
I do. Yeah, man. Well, okay. So there's quite a few things. So I'm working on, there's 2 albums I've got coming up. One for Waxworm, which is a collaboration between myself and a guy called Arthur Brown, who's over in Australia. And that's the industrial type project. We call it Dark Electro Chaos. The album's called Mea Culpa. That's going to be out on Trepanation Recordings in July. So we're doing all the promo stuff leading up to that. And then I've also got with Duncan Evans, with my solo project, I've got a split album with a guy called Javier Wallace, who also does a project called Wilderness Hymnal. And that's going to be out in September. So we're finished. We're doing the mixing, basically. We're at the mix stage for that. So yeah, we're going to be doing the promotional campaign for that soon. And yeah, I do live stream chats pretty much every Saturday on my Instagram live stream chats. So the next one's with Andrew Davey, the author. I've got quite a few coming up. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but most Saturdays. And yeah, I haven't actually got a live stream show booked at the moment, but that's something that I might look at, because I think in the UK it's going to be a few months till we know we've got shows back, and I'm waiting till we know they're back till I book anything, because I don't want to book more shows and then have to move them again. So yeah, so that's it. So basically, if people want to review either of those 2 albums, or if they want to interview me about those albums, Waxworm or the solo one that's the split with Javier Wallace, then they can get in touch on any of my social media pages and they can give me a shout. Yeah, and we can do that. So yeah, lots going on, basically.
Thank you so much, man. Good luck with your situation there. Hope it all works out, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, man. It's all looking good for now. Thanks. See you soon.
All right. Be well, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.